So joining Qasim Chaudhry on stage will be Jasmine Kundra, judge for the Asian Apprenticeship Awards and also appeared on last year's BBC Apprentice. Aisha Masood, who is currently a candidate on this year's BBC Apprentice. Marjana Uddin from the BBC, who was also one of the winners of last year's Asian Apprenticeship Awards. And to balance things out, we also have Shakil Butt, Honorary Treasurer for CIPD. Please welcome them onto the stage.
Guys, coming up, don't be shy. There they are, coming up. Round of applause for the panel, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause for the panel.
Good evening, everyone. So, for everyone who's attended this event before, I normally bore you all with a speech every year. So I thought instead of you guys listening to me talk, I will get 4 fantastic people to join me on a panel to talk about why they think the Asian Apprenticeship Awards is an important cause and what are the real issues that the Asian community faces with apprenticeships. Why are we doing the Asian Apprenticeship Awards? What are the problems? And I think we've heard some of the stories today. We've heard Shamila's story. We've heard Amma's story about, you know, the negativity that they felt that they would have if they were to discuss this with their parents. So I'm just going to throw a few questions out. You know, I'm going to go to Shakil first. You know, as a father with children who are at college, going to university, what are you currently advising your children?
So when I was growing up, for me the options were quite limited. It was either be a doctor, an engineer, lawyer, or an accountant. Lo and behold, I became an accountant. But the difference now, I think, is that young people expect more, and expect more opportunities. They expect more variety. So for myself, when I advise my young children, it is actually be what you want to be. Take the opportunities wherever you can find them, and don't limit yourself. And that's probably the best message I can give to any young person. Reach your potential, achieve your potential, strive for your potential.
Would you say you're quite a unique parent in this?
I think I am quite unique. All 3 of my children, I'm very blessed in that they all did very well. They all got, you know, great grade A's and A stars and all the rest of it. And all their friends are doing medicine, surprisingly. But you know, my oldest is looking at psychology. My son is looking at physics, particle physics and cosmology, and my youngest wants to be a writer. And again, it's a very different kind of a career expectations that I've got for them compared to what most of my people at my age have got for their children.
It's interesting you talk about, you know, your daughter wanted to be a writer, because Aisha, you did a creative degree, didn't you? You did fashion.
I did. A lot of people don't know that I did fashion design at university, and somehow I ended up in sales.
So tell me, because you're one of 6 girls within your family, and you've brought your 2 sisters along who are both apprentices.
Yeah.
So tell me about how it was a different, you know, what was the difference between the generations? Obviously, you being older than them, how did the decision-making change?
So I was the first for a lot of things in my family. I was the first to go to university. I was the first to move away from home and live alone. And I was the first to go abroad to do an internship. And when I went abroad to do that internship in New York, that's what lit a flame inside of me. That's what made me think I want to be in sales. So it wasn't my degree, but it was that time that I spent on an internship. So when my little sister came to me with the question that I'm sure so many of you have had, which is, should I do an apprenticeship, or should I go and do a degree? It was an incredibly difficult decision for me because I didn't want to ruin their life. So we worked together, and you know, we went through all of the options. What does university bring, and what do apprenticeships bring? And eventually my little sister applied for an apprenticeship at Her Majesty's Treasury, and she got that apprenticeship, and 2 years on she's still there, and I couldn't be more proud.
Well done. So Marjana, I just want to bring this to you as well. When you decided that you wasn't going to go to university and study law, and instead you found this fantastic opportunity with the BBC to do an apprenticeship, how did your family take that, and what do you think? Were there any reservations? How was it?
So I was quite lucky in the sense that my family were very supportive of me pursuing the apprenticeship route. The main reason is because everyone knows in my family how competitive law is as an industry, and I don't come from a background where I have the relevant connections, or I can't contact certain people and ask them to land me a job somewhere. So when I spoke to teachers and when I spoke to my parents, they said university will be there no matter how old you are, and it's an institution that will basically be there like forever, whereas this apprenticeship is a lot more exclusive, and it's an opportunity to get your foot in the door from the outset, and I took their words on board and I haven't regretted it since.
Fantastic. So, Jasmine, I'm going to bring this to you now because you're from the sector. You've worked in learning and development your whole life. And have you experienced barriers of entry for sort of young Asians coming into the sector in terms of taking on apprenticeships and stuff like that?
No, I think, Kasim, for me, it's always been really important to embrace who you are, what your background is, and really celebrate that. And I think that you have to be really comfortable and really confident in who you are and actually what makes you individual. There's been times where I have thought that actually, as a young British Asian woman, you have to work twice as hard to be half as good. However, I guess for me, I've always felt as if you do your homework, you make sure you're planned, you're prepared. There are so many opportunities out there, and you can really pave the way ahead to get ahead. And I think platforms like this really demonstrate that how important it is for young people to be made aware of the opportunities that are out there and to have the confidence to go out there and actually do something different. It's okay to do something that is not what everybody else is doing, but you have to just believe in your own path.
Okay, so I think a key theme of this evening is all about diversity. How, it's fantastic to see so many employers in the room that are banging the drum for diversity within their workforce, going out there and doing a lot, reading all those employer applications and seeing all the fantastic work that's been going on to attract people from a South Asian demographic, to attract the BAME demographic. Shakil, from a HR perspective and, being on the board for CIPD, why do you think diversity is so important in a workforce?
Well, I'd actually argue that diversity is important, but more importantly is actually inclusion. It's often said diversity is the entry point where you start seeing representation. But until you see inclusion, and when I mean inclusion, I mean at the higher levels, being able to progress to get to those higher opportunities, it's quite sad and telling that actually only 2% of all directors in the UK are actually from a BAME background. And that's quite significant. The CIPD, for those who don't know in the room, is the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development. Our own research shows if you're from a BAME background, you're 3 times more likely to face career discrimination where you won't progress. So for me, diversity and inclusion is often described as diversity is being asked to come to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. I'd like to take it one stage higher. I think actual real inclusion is being able to choose the song to dance to. Employees need to go out to where the talent is. We often hear that talent isn't out there. It is. It might not be reached because people aren't seeing you as an employer of choice. So you need to work harder. You need to go to where the talent is. You need to go where the BAME communities are. You need to create opportunities that actually attract everyone from across the spectrum of diverse backgrounds.
Okay, thank you for that. And Marjana, obviously working within the BBC. Sorry, thank you. Did you find it, being a young Bangladeshi girl, growing up in East London, going to work for the BBC, how was that experience,
So I'm not from East London, I'm actually from Bedford, which is even worse because it's a very small town, away from pretty much everyone. And there aren't, I don't know many people in my town who are now in the corporate industry. So when I first started, I was actually quite worried because being Muslim and being visibly Muslim is very difficult fitting in the corporate world, especially in the legal world as well. And I think I've sort of taken the flip side of that, where it's motivated me even more to continue sort of defying social expectations and making people aware of the sort of different potentials that are out there. So yeah.
Thank you. And just Aisha and Jasmine, both of you, successful ladies, both on The Apprentice. Aisha broke a record last week by hitting 1.2 million on sales. So well done on that.
Thank you.
We've got a lot of young young girls in the room, and I want to hear some words of wisdom for these young girls. What advice would you be giving to young girls right now?
Apply to be on The Apprentice on the BBC. It will work wonders for your career. No, I think I would just say that it's really important to celebrate who you are, and I think celebrate being a woman, celebrate being a woman of colour. There are so many opportunities out there, and I think when you come to an awards night like this, I always feel so inspired by the amazing young people that are here, and we had also a mature apprentice as well, so I shouldn't really sort of not include not so young people.
All about inclusion, Jasmine.
Inclusion, exactly. Thank you. No, but I just think there are so many inspiring people here. And I said this last year, this is a fantastic platform, but it needs to be so much bigger. And we all need to come together, not just once a year to celebrate Asian apprenticeships or even apprenticeships. This is something that really needs to become part of the daily dialogue in business, in everything that we do. We need to support each other. We need to lift each other up. But we need to also be very proactive in our businesses, our organizations, and really open those doors for apprentices and of all backgrounds, ages, race, colour, everything.
And can I just add to a lot of the young people in here today, I know that in the back of your mind, you might doubt yourself, because I had it in myself. I didn't think I was good enough at one point, and I've seen it in my sisters, and I've seen it in other young people, and I just want to say that you are good enough. You are good enough for those opportunities. You are good enough for those big names. So aim high. Aim high, go for those big names, because you are enough.
Thank you. I just want to end with one last question for Marjana. What advice have you got for the other finalists and winners in this room tonight? What have you done, being a winner of the Asian Apprenticeship Awards? We saw Afifa earlier, who was highly commended. She gave a fantastic introduction to the awards. We try and do our best to work with you guys and give you these sorts of platforms. But what advice would you give to finalists and winners tonight?
I think just to start off with, the great thing about this event is it's not one of those awards where you win and then the celebration is over and then it sort of repeats over and over again. I think you guys make a real great effort in maintaining that community and getting everyone involved, which, like, for instance, like I'm here today, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't won the awards last year. And in terms of advice I'd give to other finalists, I think if you were planning to win and absolute worst case scenario you didn't, being here nonetheless as a finalist is still a massive achievement. And I remember when I was a finalist, my branding within my organisation was just absolutely immense. Like, my portfolio was crazy, and I was getting messages from like the Director General and like the CEO at the company. So it's an opportunity for you to really utilise that achievement really, and get to know other apprentices as well, and you'll be sort of surprised at how you're all in the same boat. Because I think when I started, I was worried, I'm not going to find people to fit in with, and I can't find people to relate with. But when you speak to other people, you realise you're all in the same boat, and it's nice knowing that you're all in the same path together. So take the opportunity to get to know everyone else after this. Get a network with them as well. I'd say is the main advice.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Can I have a huge round of applause from our panel tonight? I just want to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors. I know Issa mentioned it. I know the hosts have mentioned it. This evening cannot happen without you. It cannot happen without the learning providers. It cannot happen without the employers. And most importantly, it cannot happen without the apprentices and their families supporting them. So a huge round of applause to everyone involved. And thank you for coming this evening. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.